Just quickly, I'll be talking about this trend line in this video. Again, the dotted trend line, I had excluded the shadow and tagged it to this one, and we moved above that. We broke out of that trend line on very, very light volume, so I don't think Bitcoin's had a breakout. Got to break out above this level, and even if we do, it could still be a false breakout. You have this upper boundary now of a possible bearish rising wedge. So again, just something to pay attention to if we do. I talked about getting to the high 69,000 area. We hit the mid 69,000 area. I talked about possibly getting to the high 69,000 or on into 7071, which is a resistance zone over here. That's still possible, but my target level was the 68,000 area. I told you we could overthrow it and get to 69,000. That's what I think. Going to see if we have a top here or if we form a divergence here on the RSI. I've talked about this at great length and detail. The RSI went to a new high above this peak. I told you I was looking for a possible divergence right here going to 68,000. But we paused and we had this pullback, and so it's taken us longer, and now we have this new potential divergence that could form on the RSI. So do keep that in mind. And again, I predicted the rally to 68,000 down here at 52,000 with my signals. You'll see the signals if you watch the video all the way through. I would. Amazing signals. Signals I use to trade Bitcoin back and forth. Absolutely incredible. Predicted we would get a divergence right here. Well, we didn't. We came down, we got a bigger sell-off. I predicted a bounce here. We did get that. Predicted a rally to 68,000. We did get that. And the 68, 69,000 area. So it's still possible that this extreme is just a peak right here, but it's still possible that it ends up forming a divergence like what we had over here, like what we had over here, like what we had over here. These were topping tails, and so it's actually formation of a lower high. I'm just saying we went higher, but at the RSI, it doesn't look at the topping tails. But same thing over here, it looks at the close. Okay, so point I'm making is, yeah, it's a divergence in that it's going higher. The indicator is not. The RSI does not look at topping tails, but you still have those divergences. We got similar divergences on other indicators like the MACD. So anyways, again, I'm looking at this rising wedge pattern. Again, you won't hear the Moon Boys talk about that. Again, I predicted this rally. Did not predict these sell-offs. They told us they weren't going to happen. I've been calling the moves back and forth. Have been right all year long. We bottomed out with the January signals. My signals turned back to bullish, and then we've had this choppiness, and they've been right going back and forth all year long, predicting the January rally into the March high, and then all of the chop. Absolutely incredible signals. In the 4-hour time frame, right now, as I'm making the video, Bitcoin is now up 1.61%. In this portion of the video last, so again, you'll see Bitcoin there right at the open. We're rallying up. So again, here's a bottoming tail in the 4-hour time frame. Again, if we can get a rebound, we'll be watching. Do we get a lower high? Do we get a higher high? But we had this rising wedge pattern that broke down the diversions here. Talked about all of this in the 4-hour time frame, the bullish diversions over here. Again, I was predicting that we would form this before the sell-off here ever happened, and predicted the sell-off here was going to happen, up forming this bullish diversions. And again, able to make predictions like that because I have good indicators. We zoom out. Again, I told you the divergences on the MACD, the RSI were forming. Told you we could still redefine it like we did over here. We got the divergence here, and then we ended up going back up and getting another reference point going a little higher and getting this. We could see something like that over here. Again, I talked about this. I'll talk about this in the daily time frame, the similarities that could take place. We could come up into this trend line or even, again, into the 70 or 71,000 area. It could be that we just make it into the high 69,000 area or the very low 70,000 area coming into this trend line here. But again, this trend line right there. So again, I'll be watching that. And again, I'll be looking at the RSI, but absolutely incredible predictions here. I talked about a divergence developing, and I told you we could drop back down and make a new low. That's exactly what happened. I talked about the divergence here. It was warning of the sell-off. I mean, these are just amazing calls. Those are outstanding. I talked about the prime parameter possibly forming a larger divergence here that happened. Again, we saw the breakdown of the rising wedge. We're still above the 200 here. And the 50 looks like it's right at that same level. I'm sorry, blind as a bat. The 50 went up here, and we're just under the 50 right now. Let me just bring this back up so you can see we're just under that 50, and again we're above the 200. So again, we'll see if a divergence develops. I still think there's a pretty good chance that happens. No guarantee. If things heat up in the Middle East, that could rattle Bitcoin real fast. Maybe it happens before things heat up in the Middle East. We'll see. Maybe it happens Thursday, Friday, and then Bitcoin starts getting rattled over the weekend or something. But again, I think the rally will end up filling, even though I predicted it. And I'm telling you what has to happen in this video for the bulls to regain control. It has to happen. Bears are going to remain in control in the weekly time frame. Right now, the bulls have lost momentum in the daily time frame. There's risk of a topping process now, and that could be followed by a bigger sell-off if we don't get a legitimate breakout. Watch the video all the way through. Talk about the bullish case, the bearish case. I really don't care which way Bitcoin goes. Playing these swings back and forth. Bullish, bearish. Again, my call over here at 52,000. Bullish signal here, my bullish signal here, my bearish signal up here and here. Absolutely amazing calls. The top is going to complete here very quickly. So watch the video all the way through. Support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, and you will. If I do, then support the channel. Follow the link. Let me know you want this information. You like my indicators. I don't have any sponsors. I send you to an exchange that's going to get you all leveraged up to wipe you out. Just ask that you support the channel. Thank you for your consideration for that. The link below will take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want. Now, Bitcoin is about to begin the Thursday session, and right here, just a few minutes before, I just wanted to show you the Bitcoin futures. Look at how Bitcoin closed out Wednesday session in just a moment. Bitcoin futures has already begun the session for Thursday here. We're right at the 10-period moving average, and we tried to rebound, compare that to the Bitcoin price. But as what I'm looking at right here is the awesome oscillator. It's still in positive territory. It's red, but we could still see a divergence develop on Bitcoin. That is still possible. Don't rule that out. Even though I predicted the rally up to 68, 69,000, that area, still go slightly higher than the previous peak and form a divergence or confirm a lower high, one or the other. And right here is still hanging in there, at least for the moment. Clouds not flipping. The bars are still blue. Again, will the awesome oscillator go into the negative region, or will it form a divergence? Again, it could be we see a violent move down this week that does that. Tensions in the Middle East heat up this week. And again, Israel has said that they would respond to Iranian missile attack on October 1st before the presidential election. That means it's likely going to happen this week or next week. And then Iran is expected to retaliate for their response. So again, escalation in the Middle East could rattle markets. Keep that in mind. I'm going to zoom out here all the way so you can see, again, we have the declining trend line. It was back over here. Bitcoin was bouncing off Bitcoin's average price, just like it did over here. And I told you, again, Bitcoin was likely going to get a Fed pivot rally. We were moving into, as early September here, we were moving towards that Fed rate cut, the first initial cut. And eventually we got up to this trend line right here, and the day of the cut, we broke it. I was predicting that for NASDAQ and for Bitcoin moving back up. It was likely we were going to overthrow the 200 and move to 68 to 69,000. Could get as high as 70 to 71, which is a resistance zone, but I told you I thought we'd go to 60 to 68,000, the 68,000 area, and probably overthrow it to 69,000 area. Why did I say that? Because we've had 8 attempts to try to go above 69,000. Now we've had 9. 9 failed attempts now to try to get above the 69,000 area. Why do we have to get above 69,000? That was the peak in 2021, in November of 2021. You got to be able to clear that level. We haven't been able to do it. Again, I predicted this rally. I'm also predicting it's likely going to fail. Why? Because we're moving into recession. We have the recession indicators already flashing. The Saul rule with the unemployment rate has already been triggered. We're about to have a recession, probably 3 to 6 months away. The uninverting of the yield curve, that's telling us we're about to move into recession. Bitcoin is not going to dodge the recession. The market will begin to price it in, so will Bitcoin. Last recession, we had the Fed did intervention to infinity and beyond. We had the politicians pass out, about 5-6 trillion in stimulus checks. Fed lowered rates to nothing. They're not going to be able to do that this time. And we have the recession indicators flashing. We didn't have an inverted yield curve happen just for fun. It's warning you a recession is about to happen. The inverting of the inverting of the yield curve, and then now the uninverting of the yield curve. It's about to take place. So again, two trend lines I'm watching. This one right here. If we come right here, we exclude the shadows a little bit here, and we hit this level right here. Well, we just overthrew that level, and again broke out of that one on very light volume, I might add. It was on very, very light volume. If we include the shadow here and drop that down, and that's taken us up to right where we're at right now with our peak there a few days ago. I've been talking about the trend line right here, but obviously I've also talked about the other trend line from the high over here. We're not getting above that level. May sell off further and just get a lower high, or rebound back up and get a lower high. But again, I don't think we're moving to new highs, as I've said. Now, if I bring it up close, we've seen momentum roll over again. We had a divergence back over here. I warned you with this rising wedge that we were going to sell off, but then I warned you down over here that we were going to find a bottom. We didn't do it here. We got rejection at the 200, the black line right there. We came back down. I warned you that we can form a divergence on indicators, and we did, like the 4-hour chart and a few other indicators. Early time frame got it. We formed this bottoming tail here, and we rallied back up. And again, I stuck to my guns, even though I predicted this sell-off before it happened, based on this divergence and other indicators and other warning signs I had, which I told you about. Stuck to my guns, and I said, hey, we're still going to go up to that 68,000 area, and again, we could overthrow it and go to 69,000. That's exactly what we've done. I said we can overthrow this trend line, and we can go to 69,000. We hit this other trend line. We still don't have a legitimate breakout. Come back to the 20 period. The S&P did today. We got a bottoming tail. We ended down, and right now Bitcoin is in the Thursday session, just starting the Thursday session. It's currently down 0.22%. As I'm making the video, we're into the first hour of the Thursday session right now. If we look at the previous sell-off, we were down, I think it was nearly 3% at the lows, if I recall. And right now we closed out 1.16%. So again, bouncing off that 20 period, that's a blue line you see right there. The 10 is still above the 20. And again, we bounced off the 50, the green line back over here. And this pink line is a 100. Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average. When you're above it, good things are happening. When you're below it, bad things are happening. Here, again, we try to get back above it after breaking it. We broke it back over here. We tried to get back above it. It failed. Tried to get back above it again. It failed. And here we're getting above it. And so far we're bouncing off of it here. So again, if we drop below the 100 period and drop back below the 220 and the 50, then that's going to be very, very bad for Bitcoin. Now, I told you, I thought we'd rally up to 68,000, that 68,000 area, but I didn't think the 50 would get back above the 200. I might be wrong about that because the 50 is closing in on this level. 200 period moving average. It took longer to reach 68,000. I thought we were going to just keep going, but then again, my signals warned me of the pullback. I told you about that at the time. So I could be wrong about the 50 getting back above the 200 because it took longer to reach 68,000. It still might do it. See what happens. Again, if we overthrow this level, you can get a false breakout. You can get a legitimate breakout if you can clear this level. Watching to see what happens. Again, if you get a legitimate breakout, you got to clear 69,000, stay above it, never drop back below it again for the duration of the bull market, clear the previous high in March, and a tall order. You got to flip the weekly signals back to bullish, and they got to remain that way. That's what needs to happen for the bulls to regain control. So we'll be watching to see what happens right here. Do we get a divergence? Do we get a lower high? Do we sell off more? Maybe to this trend line and the 200 and then try to bounce? We'll see what happens. We just get further selling pressure before we get any kind of meaningful bounce. Do we get something like this? Do we see tensions in the Middle East rattle Bitcoin? Very well could be. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds. Still the possibility of a divergence if we try to move above this area, and again, that could give us a false breakout, a push above this level and staying above it. Holding above 69,000 could be a legitimate breakout. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds. all my weekly. Now, again, I've already predicted this rally. Okay, I predicted this rally over here at the 52,000 area. I told you my signals were turning back to bullish. Told you about this, when it happened. I told you we're either going to go up here and get a pullback, or we're going to just start going parabolic. And we started going parabolic, and we formed the rising wedge. Now, I've already predicted this rally. I've already predicted this sell-off. I've already predicted this rally. And now I'm saying, hey, we're probably going to top. What would turn me back to bullish? Now, I've been bullish in the daily time frame, but I'm telling you, I think we're going to top here. Just like I told you, we'd reach 70,000 over here and then turn, and we did. What would turn me back to bullish is a weekly chart turning back to bullish. Signals clearing these levels of resistance. And again, I've already been bullish. Great Scott, did you hear what I said? I've been bullish here, and I've been bullish here. Saying 68,000 area, the 68,000 area, and we can go and hit 69,000. That's what's happened. We can even go up into the high 69,000 area, but not reach the 70,000 area. So off, get a lower high, or get a lower high right here, right now. So we'll be watching and see what happens. But if my signals turn back to bullish in the weekly time frame, then I might continue to be bullish, having already been bullish. Now, I just want to point out to you, again, I talked to you about the 9 count as it was getting ready to form and as it formed. And again, it shows price exhaustion. I told you sometimes those counts, you get them and you go a little bit higher. Other times they mark bottoms. And again, price exhaustion. So what I'm looking at here is, do we get a peak right here and get a lower high setting up, or sell off further, get a lower high? Or do we try to form a divergence, something like what we had over here? Something like what we had over here and over here, where we get a peak and then we pull back and then we go a little bit higher. We'll be watching. Tried to get a bottoming tail with the Wednesday session. I told you last week as we were going into Saturday that we were going to get that 9 count completing, possibly completing on Saturday. We did. And again, we went a little bit higher the following 2 sessions, but that session on Monday, which the Monday sessions have been producing rallies for several weeks now, this Monday session produced a reversal bar here, and now we've come back, we've sold off at a possible bottoming tail. More about that throughout this video. Is this 9 count going to be associated with a lower high, lower low, or a higher high and a diversion? It's going to be watching to see if is this 9 count going to be associated with a reversal. Do we see something like this over here? Or do we see something like this over here where it just marks a turning point? We pull back, we got a higher low. So do we see something like that happen here? So we'll be watching how it unfolds. Bouncing off the cloud, bouncing off the 20-period moving average here. So again, we'll be watching again. We got some red going on with some of my oscillators. Could they form divergences here? I think that's possible. We attempt a false breakout, the upper trend line that I showed you earlier right here. And again, we could see a divergence develop on some of my oscillators. So again, we'll be watching. It could be we get a lower high, could be we sell off sharply and then end up setting up a lower high later. In a couple different ways. Now, I've redrawn this upper boundary again from the peak over here, and we've come up and we've hit that level. I talked about the midpoint, and it was a little bit lower before, but still, even with this boundary here, again, these levels acting, the midpoint of the channel acting as support, connecting the low here and the low here, again, being the bottom of the channel. And we've had 9 failed attempts to clear this dotted red line. This is 69,000 right here. We just tried it again and it failed. 9 failed attempts. The bulls have to get us above that level. The bears have to get us give us rejection at that level, and then come back and take out the support zones over here. The bulls have to clear the resistance level and this peak over here. So we're watching as the bulls and bears fight it out. Now, I predicted the rally. I think it's going to fail. I'm telling you what has to happen if the bulls are to regain control. We'll be watching to remind you the weekly signals are still bearish. We got to see them turn back to bullish. We got to flip the cloud here. We've got to put momentum back into positive territory. We've got momentum here, short-term bullish, but the trend is still down. Got to change. If this is the real deal, Don Steele, and not a fake, phony, baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and roll fake rally, I predicted the rally up from 52,000. I told you we were going to go to the 68,000 area, probably try, and if we overthrow it, try to hit that 69,000 area again. Had now 9 failed attempts to try to clear 69,000. Again, the bulls have to turn it around. Now they're freaking out with the sell-off. I predicted the rally. I told you it was likely going to fail because recession is. We don't have a reversal of conditions with the cloud with Bitcoin futures. We are seeing the momentum line turn bearish here. We are getting warning signs. Again, I talked to you about the T that already showed up here. We had the little circle saying, hey, there's a possible top here, possible flip in momentum here. The signals have been absolutely amazing. It's the peak over here in March. And I mean, look at the peak here. You have the tops being called over and over again here, this peak here, and then we came down, we went slightly higher, but it was warning, hey, a top is coming. Top is forming. Same thing over here. Peak, downturn, went back up slightly higher, but it warned correctly. Even over here with the pullback over here, it warned a little bit early, but it was still correct. Now here. So again, do we get something like this where we get a peak and we turn back up, or a peak, turn back down, and then turn up? See it call an immediate top like it did over here. Absolutely incredible signals. Bottoms, I mean, immediate bottom here. We had a couple of them that got a counter trend, and then we got the real bottom over here. I talked about all that, predicted the counter trend at the time. These signals have been amazing. Bottom here, bottom here, bottom here for the short term. Absolutely correct. These signals are batting 1,000. They are 100% correct since the March peak. Turned bullish at the January bottom before the run-up. Signals turned back to bullish in January. Signals have been absolutely amazing. I wanted to zoom out and show you that, but let me zoom in. Now seeing with the sell-off we had right here, we're now seeing the momentum line turn bearish. We already had some warnings of a possible top here. We get something like this, where we see the momentum line turn bearish, and then we turn back up, and we get some kind of divergence, or maybe sell off more and then turn back up and get a lower high scenario. Really possible as well. But or do we just start selling off? Do we see it roll over like here and just sell off? Again, I predicted the rally back over here. I gave you the signals back over here. I told you about the bouncing off of Bitcoin's average price. We did that over here. Again, I was predicting another rally to the 68,000 area. I told you we could overthrow it and go to 69,000, which we did do. Still may even reach 70 to 71,000, which is a resistance zone from the previous peaks over here. Talked about it at great length of detail. But again, the rally I predicted has now happened. Now I'm looking for the top. I predicted that we would go to the 70,000 area over here. Gave you these bullish signals down over here, the momentum line, and again, warned you about the top over here, warned you about a possible diversion setting up, and again, stuck to my guns and said 68,000 is still going to be reached because I have good indicators. Now momentum is turning, and again, we had a red bar reflecting momentum. The bar after that's green, we got a bottoming tail. So again, at the cloud, at the 20 period moving average, we'll see if we can try to rally back up. Trying to rally back up in after hours with the Tesla earnings. Watching if we can try to go make a slightly higher high with Bitcoin. Again, overthrow this area a little bit, or get a violent turn down with tensions in the Middle East, and then get some kind of rebound. We'll see what happens. Do we get something like this, over here? With the bar that we had, RC momentum flip, flashing a sell signal. There's risk with that of further downside. I just want to make that clear. The signal's turning bearish. Maybe we form a divergence, maybe we don't. We'll see what happens with the bottoming tail. We rally off of that bottoming tail low. Balance of power is still positive. If we start flipping the trend signals to bearish, you start taking out the 200, the 100 period moving average. You start taking out the trend signals like the cloud right here. This line right here that represents the short-term swing move, taking and flipping the trend signals to bearish, all bets are off. And again, risk of downside. Maybe that's tensions in the Middle East. Maybe it's something else. But again, we could see a pretty violent move if we see that this week. We could see a violent move to the downside with Bitcoin. Signals, sell signals are flashing right here. So whether we can form a divergence remains to be seen. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But again, we reached my target level of 68,000 to the 69,000 area. This is warning of a potential top, so keep that in mind. This is warning of a potential top. Maybe we get it with the diversions and go a little bit higher like we did over here after those signals flashed. Maybe we don't. So I'm just letting you know the signals are saying, hey, be watching for a top. Maybe it's in, maybe we go a little bit higher, but it's saying, hey, watch for a top. It's warning you, it's warning me. Again, if I just zoom out here, look at these beautiful signals. Now here I have the bars reflecting the trend, not momentum, with the bars. And again, beautiful signals. Here the bars reflecting the trend are still green. We saw the bar turn red on Wednesday for Bitcoin with momentum, turned back to with momentum. Here it remained green. Now here we have with the bar right here, initially the reversal bar and turning down, we saw impulse line. That's this little line right here. It's more sensitive than the momentum line. The momentum line is just now turning bearish with the Wednesday session. This turned bearish right after the Monday decline right there on into the Tuesday session. More sensitive. But because it's more sensitive, it could give false signals, just short term. It's just looking at really, really short term price fluctuations. Couple things here though. Again, predicted this sell-off right here. One of the signals was here. I talked about other signals. Nailed that bottom, nailed that top, nailed this bottom. Absolutely incredible. And the previous ones. Signals are absolutely amazing. Now we have, again, these signals warning, hey, maybe there's a top in or about to form a top. But again, one thing that could happen is we could see momentum turn back up and still form a divergence. Okay, that can happen. Look at over here. This is a really good example. Look, we had the same signals develop over here. You had the T, the circle, the sell signal. You got the same ones here. You had the X. Actually, the X came after with the top, but you had the same signals over here. Okay, and you turned down, but then you turned back up, and a couple of days later, you went to a new high, and you formed a divergence, and then you turned. I don't know that we do that. Okay, I'm not predicting necessarily happens. Prediction was we get to 68, 69,000. I'm telling you, maybe we get it, maybe we don't. If the markets get rattled by tensions in the Middle East, all bets are off. See Bitcoin drop dramatically like this, okay? If there are tensions in the Middle East, you can see a big, nasty, ugly red bar. So keep that in mind. It can happen at any time. I'm just telling you to be watching to see what happens right here. Do we start selling off sharply? Do we sell off and then rebound back up? Do we sell off sharply, then rebound back up? Or can we form a divergence? So watching this closely, signals are absolutely amazing.